Our loving God in heaven, we know that you have been leading us, and we hear the heavenly music that is calling us upward. We thank you for the messages that have come to show us where we are and how close we are to your coming. Help us to understand these to the best of our ability. I pray for grace today to be able to explain the bit that I know with some clarity that will not create confusion. I pray for all of us as we participate and talk together that we can come to a better understanding together. So bless us with your presence. We pray for the promise of the Spirit, and we trust your good gifts. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so this is the second Sunday Law Study Initiative, where we're going over the information connected with Sunday Law, in particular July 18, 2024. And as we've been doing this, I'm sure you've noticed that there's information that's being ironed out, new information coming, and some of it can seem overwhelming at times, and I don't claim to have my head wrapped around everything. So hopefully today we can cover some subjects, and if there's anything else, there are other speakers that will follow and hopefully build on that or correct when necessary. So I received some questions, and I thought that what would be a good place to start. So there was a question regarding the east wind, and I'm not going to touch that today. That's not in my job description at the moment, but I do believe that if we build on the firm foundation of Sunday law, that the the things that follow will become clearer. So we'll just put that in a box and put that aside for today, and we'll stick to the Sunday law subject, even though I do believe they are connected. So there were some other questions regarding the seven heads and the beast. How do we know that the seven heads are seven beasts, and how to know that they are all good? So let's start with our definitions. So what's the definition of a beast? We won't spend any time proving it, but do you remember the definition of a beast that was brought out in the International Camp meeting last year?
A political institution with power.
Political institution with power. Thank you, Debbie. So while we're at it, what's the definition of the woman?
An entity with an ideology.
An entity with an ideology. And what makes a beast a beast? Like, why is it beast-like? Why would it be bad?
Because he adopts the ideology of the woman.
Yes, if it adopts, enforces the ideology of the woman. So, but on the face of it, these two definitions, an entity with an ideology, a political institution with power, is that bad thing? Is that an evil thing to have an entity with an ideology or to have a political institution with power? What would be evil
No.
about either of
I
those
don't think
things?
it's a bad thing.
No. So Debbie says no. David, what did you say?
I was saying no also. I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. And an example that was given at the ICM last year was when we looked at Daniel's 8 and 9, and we looked at theocracy. We could see that the symbols for God's kingdom was Messiah the Prince, is an entity with an ideology. And what was the ideology of Messiah the Prince that we would see in Daniel, or in the Old Testament, really? Thy way, O God,
Is in the sanctuary.
yeah, that's where the ideology is. Thank you. And if you're going to be a prince, what will you need to have? A seat, a throne. So this prince has it's a political office. And it has power. Does anybody remember what the power of that political office would be? The word used in Daniel? What would the beast have? If the beast was bad, what would it need to have to enforce its ideology on people?
Executive power? I don't know.
Yeah, it's got power. How would that
Was?
power be manifested? Sorry, Deb?
Yeah, actually, I was going to say army at first,
An
but
army.
I was thinking, yes, yeah.
Yeah, an army. So, and God has a host, which is just another word for an army. So this is how theocracy works. So we see this combination, and the whole, I guess the ideology behind the sanctuary is self-sacrificing. So it's about serving the people. In order to serve God's people, it involves self-sacrifice. Self-sacrifice on God's part, and self-sacrifice on the people's part. So so all this is good. Well, when we come to Revelation 17, we're going to see the counterfeit of this. But not everybody wanted to play by God's rules. Not everybody wanted to be a part of that theocracy. And so God says, all right, you don't have to come under my umbrella, but you do need some sort of government to protect you, to serve you. So you can create government that works on the same principle. It might not have the ideology of the sanctuary, but it still have an ideology that is to serve the people. I think if we looked at the ship of Acts 27, to protect an institution that protects and defends the people. So you can have this setup that has a good purpose, but is not religious. It's secular. What happens when that secular government goes bad? So it's good when the ideology is good, when it's for service to the people, but it's bad when that ideology is self-serving. And that's the picture that we get in Revelation 17. So jump in at any time. So if we go to Revelation 17, and I'm going to draw a beast with 7 heads. And there's a woman riding that beast. So we can give these 7 heads 7 names. What do we call the 7 heads?
You can maybe
King.
give the first head like head 1 or H1 or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I'll go 1, 2, 3,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, now give me a name for 1. Babylon. 2.
Medo Persia, Greece, Rome.
Which Rome?
Well, I know we've often said pagan Rome, but it would, yeah.
Okay, I'll go with pagan Rome. And now what are we going to do? Number
We've
5.
mentioned papal Rome.
So if I put papal Rome here, what's this woman? So what we're looking for in the beast is a political institution with power. What was the political institutions in that time period of the 5th kingdom?
The kings of Europe.
Yes, European kings. 6th,
USA.
USA.
and 7th,
USA.
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 There's going to be a difference between the two, which we'll get into. So if this is the woman, here we are, and this is the beast, what we're seeing here with the woman on a beast with 7 heads is a panoramic view. A view of history from the beginning to the end. But that's not what the first few chapters of Revelation are giving us. So if we go to Revelation 17 again and we draw it like this, I'm going to draw it with a different color. what are we seeing here? What difference has been made in this illustration?
It's the dispensational view. We're seeing only one head,
So
one
this is
king.
dispensational. And which dispensation are we looking at, Debbie?
Fifth.
Dispensation number 5. What we've got is a scarlet-coloured woman on a scarlet-coloured beast. I should say scarlet-clothed woman on a scarlet-coloured beast. We know that they're together because the beast is wearing the colours of the woman. And these colours belong to a particular dispensation. So if we were to go, so this is woman number 5. And this is beast or head number 5. So we need to conceptualize that this is not a beast. And this is not a beast. So you can't just have a body without a head, and you can't just have a head without a body. The head has to be connected to the body. But it just so happens when you're looking at a particular dispensation, that woman is sitting on a beast where there's only that head that is in control. That head is also a beast because it can't be separated from the body. And when we're looking through these 7, let's consider the first 4. The first 4 heads. Is that what we don't see in here is how those beasts were good before they became bad. We don't get a picture of that in Revelation 17. What we get a picture of is that there is a distinction between the 5th dispensation and the previous 4. In the previous 4, you don't see that separation of beast and woman, whereas you can see it clearly in the 5th dispensation. But they are there. And before these kingdoms have become beasts, they were actually serving the people, doing the job they were raised to. If we were to go to the book of Daniel, what's the description of this woman given in the book of Daniel? I know it's a question without
Like
notice.
the little one.
Yeah, little horn, yes. And that little horn also has another name, a sort of a descriptive name. So it's the transgression of desolation. And this head, number 5, we have to go to Daniel 9 for this, is desolating armies. So Revelation 17 is giving us probably a more complete picture of what Daniel 8 and Daniel 9, like a summary version of Daniel 8 and Daniel 9. Because this is what you need to become a desolating power. if we were to lay it out like this, when we consider we'll consider the last four. Because if we think of pagan Rome from Daniel 8, the fourth kingdom, it's the desolating power number 1 of Daniel chapter 8. And so it's going to have a woman and a beast. It's going to have an entity with an ideology that is going to control their political institution in order to tread down the people. The fifth kingdom is going to do the same. It'll be desolating power number 2, and it will also have a woman and a beast. That's what we're seeing up here in these pictures. And when we come down to our time, to the seventh kingdom, we are in the history of the desolating power number 3, which has a woman and a beast. This is the seventh kingdom. So all these kingdoms, the fourth, fifth, and seventh, are self-serving. And they're treading down the people. The sixth kingdom is different. We know from Acts 27, we can say that it's the protector and defender. It was raised to be. The ship was built to be the protector and defender of the people, raised to serve the people. And while it's doing that, there is a woman. And that woman is good, because the ideology is to serve the people, protect their rights. And it's connected to a good head. You have to have a bad woman sitting on a head to create a bad beast. So there's no beast in the sixth kingdom, even though there's a head, because it's not a desolating power. Only beasts are desolating power. So we know that when we look at all these heads, and we recognize that they're the kings of the north when we go back into Daniel, that those kingdoms existed before they became the king of the north. The king of the north marks that time from when they've gone from good, serving the people, to becoming bad, self-serving. So these kingdoms were in existence. Babylon was in existence before it started desolating. Same with Rome, same with the papacy. It was in existence before the 1260 years, before it became a desolating power. And that marks where they basically, the woman and the beast get into bed together. So just to follow up on that, and then we'll open up for questions. If we were to go to verse, we're in Revelation 17, and we'll go to verse 10. The tricky thing about Revelation 17 is that you've got a number of symbols
that stand for the same thing. We just have to have a talk to God or the angels or John, the Revelator, when we get to heaven. Why they did that? They're messing with our heads. But they did. So we have to, our job is to work out all these symbols. But there are same symbols for the same thing. So we know that you know, a king is a beast, is a head. But anyway, yeah, that's what can trip us up. But if we go to verse 10, there are 7 kings. So the 7 kings are these 7 heads. Let's draw it out. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Might do that one a bit bigger. 5. 7 kings. There are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. So all of these have fallen. One is. So which one is? It's the 6th. And the other is not yet come. It's not yet. So when we go to verse 11, verse 11 has to be understood on the back of verse 10. And the beast that was, which one of those is the beast that was?
One to 5.
I'm going to suggest that it's only 5 because it's the beast. And we've been placed in the or John the Revelator has been placed in the dispensation of the end of the 5th beast. So if we went back to those first 6 verses, there are 4 or 5 clues to tell us that we're in 1798, or John is in 1798. And the woman has been judged. The deadly wound has been given, but that's a different chapter. Okay, she's drunk, so she's finished drinking. She's had daughters, and she's been judged. So we're in 1798. And the kingdom that was is the 5th kingdom. And the beast that was and the beast that is not. Which one is the beast that is not?
6th kingdom.
Is 6.
So in 1798, the 6th kingdom is not. What were we told in the previous verse?
It's the 5th kingdom that is not yet.
That it is. The 6th kingdom is.
The 6th kingdom is. The 5th kingdom
Is no
in
longer.
verse. Yes. So the 5th kingdom has fallen. It was. Verse 11. So so verse 11 is unpacking verse 10. The beast that was is the 5th kingdom and is not. What's the beast that is not?
Still the 5th.
What if I was to add the word yet?
was just going to say that is not yet. So the seventh.
The seventh is not. So what verse 11 has done is it's gone back to verse 10 and it wants us to understand the fifth and the seventh. And the even he is the eighth. Who's the he? He is a pronoun. Which one is the he referred to? A
Back to the-
pronoun. Go on, sorry, Debbie.
No, sorry, I was just thinking it has to refer back to the most recent. So
Which
that would be
is?
the seventh.
Yes. So this is the
Not
he.
yet.
And the he is the eighth. If you were to go to an interlinear and read this verse in the Greek, the literal Greek, when it says even he is the eighth, that word the is not in the original text. So we understand the difference between where did my whiteboard go? Sorry. Yep, there it is. So the is a definite article. As opposed to a. A or an is an indefinite article. If I was to say, pass me a pen, which pen do I want? Any pen, I don't care, just as long as it's a pen. If I was to say, pass me the pen, which pen do I want?
A specific pen.
A specific pen. So that word the eighth, is not there. But when you put the in front of eighth, what it does is it makes eight a noun. The seventh, it makes eighth a noun. That is the name of that thing. Take the away and eighth becomes an adjective, a describing word. So let's read it literally. Even he is eighth. And you can understand why the translators would put the thee in. They do this all over the Bible, and for the most part, it works because it just doesn't make sense in the English. We want to turn that into a noun. But this isn't actually Hebrew, sorry, this is Greek. In the Greek, it is an adjective. So eighth, the meaning of eighth is fatness. To be made fat, and not in a bad sense, in a good sense, superabundance. What that verse is doing is it is highlighting the connection between the fifth and the eighth. Because what else is eighth symbolically? So that's what it actually means in the, I will say in the Hebrew. Hebrew has have specific meanings for their numbers. You don't necessarily mean that in the Greek. You see it in the Greek, but that's what eighth, the actual word for eighth in the Hebrew means. But what is the symbology of eighth?
Resurrection?
Resurrection, new beginning. So what this verse is highlighting is that the fifth is going to get resurrected in the seventh. And of course, we know where Adventism and Ellen White and this movement has been incorrect in the past, is thinking that that's going to be a literal resurrection of the literal papal king's relationship in the seventh. And that's not what we're looking for. What we're seeing is the relationship is being resurrected, but not the actual literal entities. So the eighth there is referring to the seventh. Why do I feel like I've spelt eighth wrong? Oh, anyway. Any thoughts or questions? Is that confusing? Can you see that
Elder
verse
Terry,
11 has skipped the 6? Yes, Debbie.
sorry, no, I was just going to ask in the desolating powers 1 and 2, the beast would be the desolating power, but you're implying that the good woman would also be present, just not seen in the background? Or is it that the beast begins good and therefore has a good ideology to the woman? Because I'm just trying to fit in that there's a good woman, but not seen.
So if we were to think of the fourth kingdom before it became king of the north, what did I write there? I better write that back. I could actually. Okay. So if we were to put in a time frame before it became king of the north, there'd be a good woman and a good beast. Probably shouldn't call that a beast. Yeah.
A head or a king?
Yeah, because it's not a beast until it's desolating. So yeah, there would be a king that has an army and a throne, a political institution, and they're going about doing good. They're protecting the people. They might be fighting wars, creating security for the people, making sure that they can grow their crops, making sure that the seas are rid of pirates, collecting taxes so you can make a road. They could be doing all these good things. Then at some stage they become king of the north and they're a desolating power because there's a woman that gets with a different ideology that's going to control that political institution and turn it into a beast. So even before the fifth kingdom, there would have been a time when that woman wasn't forcing their, the woman was serving the people. It's kind of hard to conceptualize that with the papal church, but there would have been a time before it became the king of the north where there was a good woman. Because they're just serving. We don't have to agree with everything that they believe and teach, but they were doing no harm. They were helping. Silence.
Thank you,
So,
Dr. Terrie. No, that answered it perfectly.
so I mean, I can trip over my words sometimes and want to use the word beast when we're talking about the good kingdom. But we know with the sixth kingdom, it's not a desolating power. Even though there's a head and there is an entity with an ideology that is good, that is sitting on a head, and they're serving the people. Comes a point in time where that switches. And to understand that switch of the seventh kingdom, what Revelation 17 is doing is saying, go back to the fifth. Because what you're seeing in the seventh is a resurrection of the fifth. It is eighth. It is superabundant. What Revelation 17 calls eighth, Revelation 13 calls 666. Because what 666 means is the means the perfection of human imperfection. It also means superabundant, but it's superabundant imperfection. So different symbols, but they're giving the same meaning. So any thoughts?
So if I understand, when we look at the number 8 or eighth, we should not take it as a literal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But we should look at it as with a symbolic meaning. Is that
Yes.
right? Yeah.
We do it with the days of the week, don't we? When did Jesus resurrect?
Yes. Yeah.
On the eighth day.
On the 8th day, yes.
Which is the first.
Mm-hmm.
When does the seventh occur? It's the eighth kingdom, but it's actually the fifth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we've got this idea of superabundance and resurrection, which I'm saying is similar to the 666 of Revelation 13. I don't think we should be going around literally looking for people with 666 on their foreheads or adding up the numbers of their names. It's representing something that's, not so, I guess, mechanical or as literal as a name that can be added up to that number. So I know others will follow. I'm not sure how many of the other speakers you've had, but they will they do a really good job of Revelation 17. But I just wanted to touch on so the question was how to know that the seven heads are seven beasts and how to know that they are all good. Well, they were good once, when there was a good woman sitting on a head. But then they become desolating powers when that woman is bad and controls the political institution to serve themselves. We mark that point as when those kingdoms become the king of the north. And there are other studies and understandings that the king of the north has multiple purposes. So going to another question. The woman commits fornication with the kings of the earth. The woman is sitting on one beast with seven heads. So that's what I tried to explain up here with the panoramic view, is you've got in a panoramic view, you've got a woman sitting on a beast with 7 heads. But what we're actually given in the beginning of Revelation 17 is a dispensational view. And there are many clues to prove that in Revelation 17. The wilderness period, that she's at the end of the wilderness, that she's drunken, that she has daughters, that her cup is full. So we're at the end of the 5th dispensation, that the beast has the same colors as the woman. So when you wear somebody's colors, that means that's also kind of a military, it has military application, that you're fighting for that person. So the question is about this sixth head. We're not actually seeing the 6th head in those first 6 verses. We're seeing the 5th. When we do look at the 6th kingdom later on, the beast is dead, but the head is still alive. So it's not a beast. All that is saying is it's not a beast, it's not a desolating power. Are there any further questions on the 6th kingdom? I'm not assuming that it's ultra clear. So I might go to the next question then. Would you please review 273 and its significance while also mentioning the historical discrepancy between 273 and 272? So this is a different question. We're going to talk about 273, which means we're going back to Acts 27. And I'm not going to draw out the 2 lines of Acts 27. I'll just draw out the time period between Panium or Beneventum and Sunday law or shipwreck. So can anybody remember what's the date that we give for Panium or Beneventum? And the event? That's all right. 275 BC. This is when Rome defeated Pyrrhus. Pyrrhus heads home to Greece, but Rome has driven Pyrrhus out of Italy. And this marks the arrival of Rome on the world stage. And the date for that, 2021. The next event that was laid out for us in Acts 27, oh dear, oh, sorry. Does anybody remember what happens next? Pyrrhus is sent home. He still leaves a battalion at Tarentum, but he goes home to Epirus. Rome's arrived on the world stage. Who takes notice?
Egypt.
Egypt. Yes. So in 273 BC, Egypt sends a delegation to Rome. Then, as I'm just going to lay it out as it was given us in 2018, in 272 BC, whoops, no, not wrong one. Rome sends ambassadors to Egypt. And it's headed by Quintus
Quintus
Fabius.
Fabius
Thank you.
Maximus
Keep going.
Scourgus.
And we'll also mark Battle of Argos, the death of Pyrrhus, he dies, the fall of Tarentum, and it is Maximus Scourgus that we link with the flood and Sunday law. So the source that was given to lay this out in 2018 was from, oh, I keep knocking the thing down the bottom, Gary Forsyth. In his book, A Critical History of Early Rome, gives us these dates, explains how Rome arrives on world history, the world is going to start taking notice, and we see these diplomatic relationships between Rome and other countries as they notice Rome's rise and strength and power. Problem comes because we did make application 273. What was our application of 273? So if Paneum Beneventum is 2021, what was 273? I'll put shipwreck at 2024. Do you remember what 273 was? 2022? What happened?
Roe v. Wade was overturned. The
Roe v. Wade, yes.
Jackson Women's Health.
That's it. Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, something like that. Okay, so we'll go Roe v. Wade. So that was our application. And then there was something else we made another waymark there. Whoops. Okay, so here's our problem, is that the source that was given us, we found out that there are other sources. And there are multiple sources that say that when Rome returned to Egypt, it did it in 273. So Egypt went to Rome at the beginning of the year. Rome went to Egypt at the end of the year. And what would be the result of doing that? What's that going to do to QFMG? If we can't place QFMG in 272, we've got to bring it back here and place it in 2022. Which means QFMG is not a mark of a Sunday law. Now that might be legitimate. we have to be honest when we come to these discrepancies. But we also have to realize the ramifications of doing that, of shifting QFMG back to 273. It will affect the Diadochi Wars, the Pyrrhic Wars, World War I, World War II. It has a roll-on effect to the others, and that's okay if that's what has to happen. The question arose about this, this discrepancy, and so all I'm going to say is I don't have an answer. I can't explain it, but I am prepared to take criticism for it and stand on the multitude of evidence to keep QFMG its Sunday law. So QFMG what have we got? We've got maximum flood. What's the F?
Voting.
Yep. Well, we'll go election cycle, but
True.
voting, yep. And Quintus?
Fifth
July.
equals seventh.
July. If you can remember all those reasonings why we come to July from the 5th and the 7th. QFMG is a symbol. Built upon this symbol that pointed to July 2024 are three other proofs. What would be the first one? What was what standalone study for July? Do you know what followed? If I say World War II and gatekeepers, what about another standalone study for July 2024?
The Democratic Party, or pardon me, the Republican Party being purged, or
Okay, so that was part of QFMG. Another study that's developed post gatekeepers in more recent times. Standalone.
Julius Caesar.
Okay, so that's all good. That's connected with the 5th and the 7th. July, yes.
The RNC?
So what were we studying? What were we looking at earlier? What have we begun our talk today with? Revelation 17
Revelation
and
17.
adultery. It's a standalone, it's not connected to QFMG. You can connect Caesar to QFMG. You can connect the RNC to QFMG. All those things I'm not disagreeing with, but they're not standalone. They build on QFMG. Gatekeepers doesn't. Revelation 17 and adultery doesn't. And there's another one that's developing now, and it's the last president. The revisiting of the last president of the Medes and Persians, Daniel 11, verses 1 and 2. They're all standalone studies. So one could argue you don't need QFMG. And I've actually heard people say that. We don't need Quintus. We've got this one and this one and this one. But I'm confident, I don't have the answer for this 273, 272 today, but I am confident there will be one. I'm not ready to put QFMG aside. The way I see it is if we go back to the lead up to the history of the first Advent. Remember, it's 1989, we're all heading to the second Advent. In the lead up to the first Advent, there were wise men or wise people. And they were given, they knew they were living in a time that was leading up to the first Advent, to the King of the Jews coming. It was in the signs of the times, it was in things that they were reading. They knew from external sources and Hebrew scriptures that that's where they were. But they were given a symbol. What was the symbol they were given?
The stars?
They were given a star. That star pointed them somewhere. Quintus pointed us to July. The star pointed them to Jerusalem and to Bethlehem. Well, they had to get through Jerusalem to get to Bethlehem. But they never stopped studying. That star could stand alone, but it wasn't they were studying the prophecies of the Hebrew scriptures. They were studying the prophecies of what's his name? Oh.
Jeremiah, Isaiah, Jeremiah.
No, it's actually prophecies that weren't in the Hebrew scriptures, but we do get a bit of them. But he went on to prophesy outside the scriptures.
Balaam?
He was on it. Sorry?
Balaam?
Balaam. Thank you. Great. The prophecies of Balaam, they were studying external events. All the way that they're following that star, they don't stop studying. So the Magi, they represent this movement. And they never would have got to Bethlehem without that star. People could have read the book that explained the history of World War II and the importance of gatekeepers and the roles of the Conservative Party. But that explained Quintus. It would have been very hard to unpack without Quintus coming first. It would have been very hard for the wise men to get to Bethlehem without the star. Star wasn't everything, but you just needed someone to point them in the right direction. And Quintus was the person that pointed us in the right direction. Quintus said, look at July. Otherwise, gatekeepers, Revelation 17, and adultery, and this last president, they would have been, last president would just be still sitting in mothballs. It was adultery, the studies of Elder Parminder, that opened up an adultery that opened up Revelation 17, and Curtis's study of the gatekeepers that added to the story as well. So we needed a symbol to point us in the right direction. But you can't, the symbol is not enough, not near enough. A star, just seeing a star in the heaven, what nincompoop would just follow a star and not have any basis to follow it? So we have to be careful if we want to shift QFMG away from the Sunday law. And that was the purpose of looking at the dates and shifting. I do believe that the answer will come. I don't have it. And I'm prepared to wear criticism while we wait. I'll stand with QFMG at Sunday law. So I come with no answers to explain the discrepancy in the dates and the different sources. I don't know why Elder Tess chose that one. I don't know if she read other sources, and we have no way of finding out now when she chose that particular one. Don't know. So we're in the dark there. So we have one source, and where we have other sources that say it's the same year. If we shift it, everything falls apart. If everything has to fall apart for truth to be made evident, then let it be. We should be ready to accept that. But we also need to realize that we have built other studies on top of QFMG that cannot be pulled apart. So any thoughts or questions regarding that question? I'm not sure how we're going for time.
You still
There
have
is another
15
question. Okay, so another question here. Are we at close of probation? And if we are, what was the increase of knowledge and formalisation? So up until Sunday law, we did a lot of this. We did a lot of lining up external events with internal events. I think post-Sunday law, I don't think we can do that. There may be some people doing that or attempting it, but I think our focus post-Sunday law is external events. So there are some that are saying, that I've heard floated, that the ICM last year in France was increase of knowledge. I'm not confident enough to say that. I do believe we are in an increase of knowledge. A formalisation would mean that we can see close of probation. So I think close of probation is there's a fuzzy picture, but it's not all that clear. There certainly hasn't been a loud cry of what close of probation is, but I think it is becoming clearer. So yes, I do believe we are in an increase of knowledge. I don't think that's hard to accept when you think of the overwhelming amount of information we're being faced with each week, both externally and internally. But I don't think we can sort of, those days of lining up external and internal are over. And now we just need to decipher all the external events. So are we in increase of knowledge? Yes. Are we seeing clearly the close of probation? I don't think so. I think that picture is becoming clearer, but I don't think we've experienced the loud cry on what that is yet. However, what is clear is that Daniel 11:40 has been fulfilled. The king of the south is dead. Daniel 11:41, the glorious land has been overthrown. So Sunday law is here. So verse 40, verse 41 have been completed. And we are now in verse 42, and we are looking at the relationship between the seventh beast and Egypt, the overtaking of the world, or its relationship with the world. So I do believe we are in verse 42. And verse 42, he, the king of the north, stretches forth his hands upon the countries and the land of Egypt shall not escape. So we know that the administration has changed in the United States. The USA is the king of the North. It's now going forth to take over Egypt or the world. So the change of administration has taken place, and we have seen the bombing of Iran. We've seen Venezuela. We're in Iran number 2. And won't be long and there'll be Cuba. Which all, I think, point to the fact that we're in verse 42. So as far as formalisation, increase of knowledge, I don't have definitive dates or waymarks for those things. But other than saying that I think the increase of knowledge is a no-brainer.
So, Terrie, I thought, and that's probably my mistake, that verse 42 pointed to a close of probation and beyond. That we were used to put verse 41 for Sandelo and verse 42 for COP. And
So
worldwide Sandelo, sorry.
So it's stretching forward. So we're in the that process is taking place. So just like yeah, that it's not fulfilled yet.
Okay, I got it. So it's in the process, but we can't say that it's completed.
No, same as I guess 40 was a period of time. Yes, I guess one way we've put it is that we're in the agitation of the taking of the world. Might be a better way of explaining it.
So verse 43 will be COP? How do we put it then? 40 or 44 to 45?
So that might be a good study for another time as far as, do we overlap them? Are they sequential or are they parallel verses? Because I've seen both done and I'm not really sure what to do with that here now. I think there's an argument to be made for being sequential. But I know that it has been overlapped before, like a chiastic structure. I think we've only really, if we are watching external events, we can see that it's that the information coming out of the United States is not just domestic, it's international.
Yeah, absolutely. So he's not isolationist, I can't say the word, isolationist at all.
Trump is serving himself, doing his own will.
Yeah, definitely.
Unrestrained.
And so how do you see the fact that the European countries now, they are not standing with Trump for now on the war in Iran? Do you parallel that? I know that we're going back and forth, but with the fact that we are in the 10 horns, or I don't know.
They're not they're not exactly standing up to him at the same time. So you know, there is certainly a pushback.
But is it enough to make a prophetic parallel with that pushback at the moment?
That they are the ones that are going to eat her flesh.
Yes, that, you know, they did say that they rule for 1 hour and then, yes, they're gonna eat their flesh, the flesh, yes.
So what hasn't been laid out in Revelation 17 is the role, who those kings are and what the role of them will be at the end. We know from 1798 that the power that put the papacy on the throne of the earth is the power that takes it off. So I think that's why this Sunday Law Initiative is important, that we actually know Sunday law well, and we keep talking about it and we keep studying it, because God illustrates the end from the beginning. And if we don't get the beginning right, if we're confused, if we're uncertain, then close of probation isn't going to look all that clear to us either. So that's why we're going over and over and over the beginning of the seventh kingdom. So I really can't give commentary on the end of the seventh. We have some idea, like you said, we know that what Revelation 17 says, but then what that actually is going to look like, what we've been learning so far is things are looking a lot different to what we thought they would look.
So we are in the increase of knowledge, and so I don't know if we can pinpoint a certain event for the increase of knowledge, or we are still in that. I mean, I understand that we are still in that period, but can we pinpoint a date or an event? I remember in South Africa, Curtis suggested the attack on Iran, but I know that since then there was no development on that. So just a question, or is it too early to pinpoint an event or something at this time?
That might be valid. But I don't know. I've heard that floated. I've heard the internal waymark of ICM floated, but I haven't seen anything very conclusive on it. I'll have to go back and rewatch Curtis in South Africa. But I think we are in it, so there must have been a starting point. And maybe, the beginning of the seventh kingdom and its push out into the world might probably be a legitimate start to it. I don't have the confidence to say, to explain that. So I'm out of my depth. Other than I know we're there.
No, that's fine. That's something also that, as you mentioned, that before we used to do external event matches, internal event, but for this dispensation, we are really looking at the seventh kingdom, which is external, and so we have to focus more on events externally than what's going on internally. Sorry, that's really the focus, so that we know how not to manage, I say, a kingdom. I think that right now we are more observer of what a seventh kingdom, I mean, I don't know, desolating power looks like in real life. because we've studied it, we know about it, but we never lived it. And that's the first time that we really, live it, so to speak. So I do agree with that.
Elder
Yes,
Terrie would
sorry, go Debbie.
No, I was just going to add to what Katja had said. I was just thinking as she spoke, the USA looking towards Egypt and tariffs sort of being an early on step whereby, and it was initially rhetoric, but then it sort of changed into action. But along with that, like prior to Venezuela, prior to Iran, prior to Cuba, was Denmark and Greenland. And I mean, some of that even began with Canada becoming the 51st state, kind of. And a lot of people initially really did think Trump was joking. But it sort of was a progression, if you like, that Egypt being the focus, it sort of broadened as time went on. But I was just wondering, in terms of tariffs, economic coercion sort of playing any significant role, like
So
in terms of
in the
increasing
Eurasia
knowledge.
groups, you're familiar with the Eurasia group's 10 risks for 2026? In their last one that's called red herrings, that they list 4 things that are red herrings for 2026, and the tariffs are one of them. So what they're saying is they're still tariffs, they're still doing damage, but they're not a high risk for 2026. And that's because something can really only have a big shock once. So there was the big tariff shock in 2025 with Liberation Day and all that. But what happens is countries, businesses, governments, they adjust. And so, the tariffs have had their shock and awe. And even though they're still there and he still has his tariff hammer, that part of the history is past. Now we're seeing, actual bombs and
And the Epstein files, they would have a significance, wouldn't they?
I believe so. I don't think they're going away. I don't know, but I mean, the tariffs are a problem, but they haven't caused the economic upheaval that the war in Iran and the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has caused. So those 4 red herrings of the Eurasia Group are worth a read, indeed the whole doctrine. I mean the whole paper. So the Epstein files too, Annabelle, they've had a domestic impact, but the greater impact has actually been externally. When you look at what's happening in Europe and Britain especially, there's been more of an impact externally than domestically with the Epstein files, which is just horrific, but that's the time we're living in. Oh, well, I want to thank you for today and for listening, and we might bring to the close that you get some sleep. So I'll close in prayer. Our loving God in heaven, we thank you for the messages that have been opening up to us through Elder Parminder and the studies on adultery in Revelation 17. And now, as we go back into Daniel 11, we appreciate what has been taught in the past, and we ask that you would help us to sweep away the cobwebs and understand these past studies in better light, so that we can make right application today. So we pray for more light that will make these things clearer, wherever it comes from. We ask for answers to our questions so that we can not walk in doubt, and pray for the Canadian ministry, that you'll bless these members, their night's sleep and their fellowship and worship tomorrow. Thank you for all things, and we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.